Hey, good morning, YouTube. App-driven guy, Brent Tiffany, and this is the third installment of the Uber and Lyft Mentor series. I just want to cover something that's very important. It's a big question people have, and that is, which is better, Uber or Lyft? Okay, it's a very delicate topic. There's a lot of views on this. I hope to spark debate with this video and get people talking about it. Because there's so many different strategies and there's different advantages and plans that people can use, varying by city, guarantees, rates, just the way that people feel about the companies, tipping. These are all important things. I'm going to try and cover that in this video. If you see me looking down, it's just looking down at my notes to keep me on track. That's how I like to do my videos, is on point, to the point, and not wasting your time, giving you good information that you can use. So first thing is, depending on your city. I know in a lot of cities Uber's better, a lot of cities Lyft is better. It seems like Seattle's super hot with Lyft right now. I get people telling me in Los Angeles that they get huge guarantees and bonuses for being on Uber most of the time. The big differences for me, what it comes down to, is with Uber, I get a lot of airport runs. Okay, and that's where the big money is for me. I prefer not to do nights because I don't like driving intoxicated people from bar to bar. I would prefer to do the mornings and get the airport runs. So with Uber, that's a big plus for me that keeps me on the Uber app, is getting those airport runs, and it's more consistent. You'll get a lot of times where it's just I drop off a run and a rider, and I'm picking up the next rider immediately. Uber will send you through that next ride request before you're done with the one you're on. Now with Lyft, sometimes I feel like I'm more of a taxi service, where, and I don't mean that as in like I feel like a taxi driver, because the customers, the riders are very high quality. It's a great service, but I feel like you get a lot more short to mid-range ride requests with Lyft. I may be wrong on that. I may be just having that view because that's my experience. And okay, the next big thing I want to cover is, don't be fooled by the commission structures of Lyft. Okay, because with Uber, you finish a ride, you click on it, then I'm finished. You look at your ride, sometimes it takes a few minutes to process, sometimes it takes a half an hour to process your last ride, whatever, but the amount you see is what you get paid, right? So it says, last trip, $16.50. That's what you get paid. Lyft, as soon as you drop the customer off, it says ride earnings, or not earnings, it says, your total for this ride, total before tip, $16.50. You're like, oh wow, $16.50. And a lot of drivers are fooled by that, and they think that's what they're actually getting paid, but they're not. That's your pre-commission amount. Also, on top of that, Uber and Lyft both charge like another $1.25, $1.35, or whatever it is, on top of the amount that they're showing you they charge the customer. Okay, so you have the base rate for both of them. In my area, it's $1.25 each. Then you have the mileage rate, both of them, $1.25 each in my town, Portland, Oregon. Then you have the per mile rate. The per mileage rate, yeah, $1.25 a mile. And then you have the time, 20 cents a minute. Both of them charge exactly the same amount, Uber and Lyft. It's just when you finish a Lyft ride, it gives you that bigger number. It shows you that bigger number. And a lot of new drivers don't know how to check their real numbers. You go to your dashboard on your Lyft account. When you're on driver mode, you click on your face, and it takes you to dashboard. Dashboard pops up. You go to driving history. You click on the menu button again. You go to driving history, and it'll show you a list of all your rides, and it'll show you the actual amount you're getting paid. So when it shows you $5 for a minimum ride, you're really only getting $3.75 because they're taking they're taking 25% out. But it'll show you your tips also. So that's a good thing there. Now, that's the next thing I want to get into, is tips. Okay, you can tip through the app on Lyft. That's a great plus. You get a lot of tips. You get a lot of smaller tips sometimes. Sometimes you get a $5 or $10 tip. But that doesn't mean that you're going to make more money in tips with Lyft than you are with Uber. A big thing you can do, I don't do it personally. I'm thinking about getting some tip signs in my car, but I want to find the right verbiage, a way to make it to where it's not imposing on people. because I don't like people feeling like they have to tip, or like that's even in the back of their mind, because it changes the whole process of the ride. And it gets people talking about tips, and some people just don't like tipping. They don't like feeling like they have to tip for something they're already paying for. With me, Uber rides to the airport, that's a tip in itself. You get paid a lot more money for those. And having said that, I have gotten multiple $10 and $20 tips through Uber. I've had days where my Uber tips just on 1 or 2 rides from Uber were bigger than all my Lyft tips combined. $1, $2, $3 tips from Lyft. Okay, so tips can be good either way. And a big thing is, I only started doing this a few months ago, so I'm not jaded and, put off by Uber dropping their prices. I wasn't doing Uber back when the money was huge, so I don't have that skewed vision of, Uber used to be so much better than it is now, because I'm doing it now, and I love it right now. I think these are great companies that I'm able to make money with. And what was the other thing I had here? Cancellations are better with Lyft. You get the full $5 for a cancellation, where Uber, they take 25% out of your cancellation fee, which I think makes sense anyway. I mean, you got that ride through them. That's their time they're losing too, so they take the fee. But with Lyft, you get $5. Uber, you get the $3.75. That's in my area. It'd be different depending on yours, obviously. Now, okay, price. The way the Uber is a little bit deceptive is with pricing. We already covered the commission structure and how it can be a little bit deceiving, seeing what you get through Lyft. The other thing is the way their prime time works for the customer's sake. For the Lyft riders, they see 100% prime time, and that means I'm going to pay an extra 100%. So that same customer, when they go to Uber and they see 1.1 surge, they think that means they're going to pay an extra 110% if they've already been using Lyft. So that's another thing that Lyft uses to make Uber look worse to their riders. Is, if you get a surge with Uber, you're going to be paying a crazy amount. They don't understand that the Uber multiplier is the 2 times. But that's just a little thing, nothing big. And I'm not trying to come off biased towards Uber, because they're both great. I think Uber and Lyft are both great. I just think that people are under this impression that Lyft is like this hip young company that's doing everything right and blowing Uber out of the water. But in reality, they're just big corporations that are fighting to keep people on their app, to keep people on their product. So the next thing is guarantees. Guarantees with Lyft recently have become impossible. They give you this tiny little zone that you have to drive in around downtown. If you take 2 rides within that zone within your hour, then you can get your bonus, but you have to also be over 90% acceptance rate for the week. So it's a pretty hard deal. And if you're out of the zone, you have to take 3 rides, which is, who takes 3 Lyft rides an hour anyway, consistently during the guarantee times? It's really hard to hit. With Uber, 1 ride during your guarantee time, 1 ride anywhere in the area, or 1.5 rides within the hour, and that's 50 minutes logged into the app. You also have to be over 90% on Uber. The problem with that is you can't check your acceptance rate with Uber. That's one thing that really sucks. I emailed them and they said, oh, it's a privacy issue, and it's we have to be fair to our riders. And I'm sitting there going, how? It's not a privacy issue, because I can tally mark how many ride requests I get and how many ride requests I've accepted, and I can figure out my own acceptance rate. So why is that a privacy thing? I can do it on my own. So why are you guys keeping that from us when you could just put it on your app and we can track our acceptance rate like Lyft does? It's ridiculous. Lyft, you can just check it right there. So that's a big thing that kind of bugs me about that. Now, having said that, I think sometimes with the guarantees, they send you better guarantees depending on how much you've worked on their app. I've noticed when I don't work for Uber for a week, they'll send me really good guarantees. When I don't work for Lyft for a weekend, they'll send me good guarantees. Now, it goes the other way too. I've heard drivers say that if they're a platinum level driver with Uber, 75 rides plus a week, they get 1.8, 2.0 payouts during certain hours, like consistently. Like Uber sends them that you will get paid 1.8 or 2.0 during these hours. Bottom line, nothing to it. You just have to take rides, and that's it. No acceptance rate, nothing. And that's great. I get 1.2s from Uber during the afternoon, and it's fantastic. I mean, it's just extra money. Okay, I'm trying to make this all quick, get in all this information. Maybe you'll have to watch certain parts again, but I'm trying to cover a lot here and doing it, in a good way. So the last thing is to make a plan. You got to plan out your day and your week. If you're doing Amazon Flex, Postmates, other things, you got to have time set aside that you're going to do those things. Okay, but then when it comes to Uber and Lyft, you got to, if you're getting guarantees from both companies, write them down. Write down a list of all your guaranteed times. Make a little calendar showing when your guaranteed times are up. So you know if you want to work for one company or this one during those days. And now what goes into that is you need to decide early on in the week, am I going to even try to go for guarantees? Like for me, I do airport rides in the morning. I can't go for guarantees because they're all at 2 o'clock in the morning, later in the night, in most cases. And the ones during the day aren't that good. It's like $20 an hour, $25 an hour. It's decent, but it's not worth trying to keep my acceptance rate over 90% and then trying to work within that tiny zone they give you to make your guarantees. So you got to decide, am I going to go for guarantees? Or am I just going to let rides go that are 20 minutes away from me and let them go anyway because they're not worth driving to keep my acceptance rate up? Because sometimes you get to that point where you have to take every ride to keep your acceptance rate good enough to try to get your power rider driver bonus with Lyft. Or you got to, try to keep your 90% with Uber so you can get your guarantees. But then all of a sudden you're finding that you're having to drive 20 minutes to pick up rides and there's no choice. You have to do it to keep your acceptance rate up. And that's another thing with Lyft is you get the 20% power driver bonus. If your car is made within the last 5 years, you're on that program and you got to keep it above 90%. Now you got to take 65 rides a week to get it. And you got to have so many peak rides. So they're trying to get people to stay on Lyft. They're struggling super hard, where Uber is just like, hey, do whatever you're going to do. We're going to be up front. We're going to tell you when the guarantees are. We're going to give you your, extra payouts when we give them to you. And if you want to prove yourself and drive and do a bunch of runs, then we're going to reward you basically down the road. So it's just, they're delicate systems, and you got to decide what works for you. These are just pieces of advice. I want people to, debate about this, talk about it, drill me, make me do some more groundwork. Because I don't know. I've only been doing it a few months. People have been doing it for years, and they have way more, perspective on it than I do. Another thing I can say real quickly is let volume dictate what you're going to do for the week. If you're starting to take a bunch of Uber rides and your volume's building up on that, go Uber dedicated. Stick with that for the rest of the week. Get tons of rides doing that. If Lyft is looking really good earlier in the week and you're doing good, your acceptance rate's up, stick with Lyft, and do Lyft only on the weekend. That way you can make the biggest bonus and the most amount of money. But I just try not to keep my hands tied to one or the other and just let them both make money for me as much as I possibly can. That's my advice for today. Like, comment, subscribe, please. Share this, help others out, and tell me if I'm full of it or if you like it. Have a good day.